If food is the one thing holding you back most from how you want to look, feel, and perform, you're not alone. I coach many business owners who love training and don't lack the desire to change. They just simply don't know how to manage their food in relation to their personal, professional, and social lifestyle. And it's not always their fault. And this may relate to you, but sometimes within their weekly framework, the way they're trying to control their food, the methods might be outdated or simply unsustainable. So in this episode of the Kirk Miller Podcast, I want to share with you the exact ways you can manage your food better so you eat better permanently, year round. Because I see a lot of generic bullshit and information out there that's spouting stuff that doesn't really help you specifically in relation to your lifestyle. And this causes many, many problems. Because the problems of not being able to eat well year round create problems with not just how you look, but your energy levels throughout the year, your focus in business, your mood, your productivity. You know, the benefits of eating well consistently year round go far beyond helping you look good. You know, for me, I look at everything I eat as an investment in the energy I wish to live with. And I know so many of my clients are the same, because when you eat better, you feel better. And when you have more energy, you simply squeeze more out of your week, squeeze more out of your month. And obviously that compounds dramatically over the year. So, as I said, in this episode, we really want to dig a little bit deeper and provide a much deeper level of awareness for you in relation to your food. So, having been a coach now for many years, you know, I feel, and again, this may relate to you, so many people have tried different things, but in particular, diets. And as I'll share later into this podcast, you know, it goes without saying, if anyone is investing in our program, the Built to Last program, of course, we provide a diet plan. But they don't give you the solution needed across a calendar year. You know, if you are someone who can stay in your house, you know, every single day all year round, then of course a fixed meal plan approach would certainly work if that's what you choose to do. But you know, I don't know anybody who likes to live like that. Okay, so if you are someone that has tried every single diet plan, you know, keto, high carb, low carb, you know, carb cycling, you know, the 5-2 diet, whatever it may be, I genuinely believe if a diet has a name on it, it's a matter of time before that diet fails you. Okay, and that's why people jump from diet to diet, and then they're scratching their head, and then they create enormous amounts of emotional pain when it comes to trying to drop fat and, more importantly, keep it off. And that for me is what I really want to try and share with you throughout this talk, and you know, I will do on many, many podcasts in the future, is it has to create lasting change. Everything you do with your food, your training, your movement has to create consistency, you know, physically. Because if you can control your food and how you look and your health consistently, then emotionally you're going to reap the rewards of that year round also, because they work hand in hand. Generally, if you look good, you feel good. Okay, and that'll have a massive effect on your personal relationships, your professional relationships. And the harsh truth is this: if what you've done previously, or maybe what you're doing now, isn't helping you look the way you want to, isn't helping you control your body weight the way you would love your body weight to sort of look like, then, you know, it doesn't work. It's as simple as that. If you relate this to maybe to your career, if you were to keep doing the same thing over and over again and it wasn't working, you would change it or look for a better solution. And this is exactly what you need to do with your food. But I totally appreciate that if you've only ever thought that the way to transform your body long term is to be on a diet plan alone, then maybe what you don't know, you don't know. So I'm going to take you through, you know, the solutions of what we work with our clients that really make sure that we tick all the boxes. Okay, so just getting straight to it. What are the solutions if we are sort of struggling to control our food and have consistency with the food we put in our mouth? For me, there are there are 4 options, and I'm going to talk about a sort of bonus 5th, but I'll talk about that in a separate episode. But there are 4 options you have with your food. Number 1, you can have a protein and calorie target per day, and you track your calories. For me, the benefit of this is if you're doing this with 100% transparency, you are magnifying on a much deeper, honest level exactly what's going in your mouth from your food, from obviously the liquids. But if you are tracking everything with 100% transparency and you're making sure you're hitting your protein target, you're making sure you're hitting your calorie target, there's less margin for error because you're looking at exactly, what you're investing in terms of the food you're putting into your mouth. Okay, it's a bit like business. If you are magnifying every single input, output, then you're going to have a much clearer indication and a much more accurate prediction of what the outcome's going to be. And it's the same in relation to your food. If you are tracking your calories and you're tracking your protein target, then you've got a much more predictable outcome in relation to your body, how it will look, and your body weight and what you want that to be. Okay? But the drawbacks of that, so I'm going to go through the pros and cons of all of these different options. So the option 1 of protein and calorie target, okay, setting yourself that per day, is sometimes it's not always practical. So, for example, we have clients, when they go away on holiday, or they literally have, a back-to-back schedule of meetings, and just time is genuinely that pressed. Sometimes it can cause, enormous friction in terms of letting your brain breathe with trying to obviously just have a positive relationship with your food. All right. But it doesn't mean to say that if you're using this strategy, as I'll come on to towards the end, this has to be the only approach. But I genuinely think if you're trying to get a grip on your food to start with, set an exact protein target, an exact average calorie target. And the reason I say average calorie target, okay, of course, if you were going to set an average calorie target or a set day calorie target for every single day where you had the same every single day, of course, you're going to see, enormous progress very, very quickly. But you're not always going to eat the same food every single day. And most people, from my experience, generally want to eat more food Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So manipulating your calories across the week, long term is going to be a much more sustainable approach if you are going to track your calories, have a protein target. But the one thing I'd always do is keep your protein the same. Okay? So that is the option I would go for, especially at the start of your journey if you're stuck. Because it's important to have an awareness of when you're tracking your calories, exactly what's going in your mouth. And it's an unbelievable form of accountability when you're having to manually type in to, say, MyFitnessPal, what you're eating on a daily basis, as and when you're doing it. It's there, it's staring you in the face. So if you're eating shit continually and you're putting that into a tracking device, then you're choosing to do that continually. So it is a fantastic accountability tool. Second option you have is a set meal plan. Now, a set meal plan for me, if you are in the position to do that in relation to your lifestyle, especially during the week, okay? If you can control your environment and you can have a set meal plan where you are controlling all of the food that is going in your mouth, again, you are creating that certainty and that predictable outcome as a result of having a more structured process. Because one of the things that everyone is craving, I feel, when they're trying to get control with their fat loss, with their health and fitness, is structure. And the beauty of a set meal plan is it keeps you incredibly organized. You're in total control of, the quantity of food that's going in your mouth, especially if you're shopping, you're prepping, you're cooking. You're not relying on any external source that may hinder the amount of calories that are going in your mouth and the quality of calories. So a set meal plan is a fantastic way to learn more about quantities of food. I think when you have a set meal plan that you are sort of, in control of yourself, you'll learn a lot more quickly, in my opinion, on, how to guesstimate calories, even from portion sizes. So, for example, say if you are, you're eating 3 times a day, and a couple of those meals, you might have a set portion of chicken of, say, 200 grams, 250 grams. You might have a portion of fish, say 200 grams. When you are used to sort of weighing that yourself, and you've done that multiple times, then when you're out at restaurants and stuff, you're going to have a good estimate of, okay, eyeballing that sort of portion size, because you've got into the habit of doing it yourself. So I would say if you are in a position to have a set meal plan where you can control your cooking, especially again at the start of your journey, you really will create enormous amounts of momentum very, very quickly. I think between a set meal plan and tracking your calories, even alongside that to start with, you really are going to create that momentum, because you're covering both angles. Even if you are having a set meal plan, but like some of our clients, you're slightly veering off that at the weekend, but you're tracking your calories, then between those two options, you can't go far wrong, okay? So set meal plan for me gives you structure. The one drawback from that is it can create a little bit too much of a rigid approach. There's no malleability for that, which is why for me, a set meal plan alone long term doesn't work, especially when you want to factor in socializing at weekends, traveling, holidays, special occasions. You're not going to take your set meal plan to this, to these occasions. So that is why what we do inside Built to Last, you have to teach people how to, get in shape without a diet plan, as well as obviously learn the benefits of a diet plan. All right. So yeah, they're the pros and cons of the set meal plan. Then the third option, and I think this is a fantastic long-term option for many business owners, and that is outsource. Have a meal prep company, or this might make a few of the guys listening to this laugh. Get your partner to cook for you. All right, that might be wishful thinking for some people, but if you've either got your partner or someone or a company that can cater to your needs, and make sure you're hitting your exact protein targets, your meal requirements, and in an ideal world, make it as tasty as possible, then you're winning the game, because you're saving time, you're not wasting bandwidth on something maybe that isn't particularly high in your values, which relates to me. Then that is an unbelievable solution. Like, for example, just very quickly with myself, I eat 2 big meals a day, plus I have a shake and a banana with some almond milk. I only make, if I am at home, 1 meal a day, and that is oats. It's very, very simple. I have oats, I have some eggs, it takes minutes, and then I outsource my evening meal. It's just not high on my values, but I make sure that the companies that I outsource to are providing real food, making sure I'm hitting plenty of protein, so it's high quality. All right. So if you are outsourcing your food, do your research and make sure that the portion sizes are on point. It's full of real food. It's not sneaking in things like added sugar as much as, or as little as possible. Sorry. So outsourcing, great for time, especially when you're a busy business owner, or you've just you got a family to think about, and you're just not, you're like me, you just don't particularly like cooking, prepping food, and you don't have someone to do that, in your household. So look for a meal prep company. But just like the other options, you do need to be aware of a couple of things if you're outsourcing your food. The one thing that no meal prep company or service can 100% guarantee is the exact quantity of calories, the exact quantity of protein, and also the exact quality of calorie, especially when there's companies that are working at scale, where they're producing hundreds, if not thousands of meals per week. So it's just to be mentally aware that sometimes your calories might be a little bit more, sometimes it might be a little bit less. Sometimes the protein might be a little bit more, it might be a little bit less. So just bear that in mind. And this is one reason, and again, I'm not trying to force this on everybody, But one of the reasons I weigh myself every day, especially since I've outsourced my food a lot more than I've done in previous years, is I know even if I'm outsourcing my food, if I'm keeping my weight, my fighting weight, roughly where I like it to be on a consistent basis, then I know, give or take a few calories, that the food is pretty much where I want it to be. So it's just to be aware of that, okay, if you are outsourcing your food. And what I would do is, if you find that you think you're doing everything right with your food, but due to you outsourcing it to a certain meal prep company, and you think that within that calorie framework that those meals are saying they're providing, if you found over a period of time that, it's not in line with, your progress in relation to your body weight and your performance, then, I'd have no qualms of, one, either changing the company that I'm outsourcing to, or even speaking to them to say, look, I'm going to be really honest, I don't think these calories are accurate, the protein's accurate. What can we do about this, especially if you're a regular customer, okay? And as my clients will probably share with you if you ever connect with them, I am not remotely embarrassed to do that, especially when if I'm paying for a service and, I feel that isn't meeting my expectations, I'll positively sort of challenge them, especially with what I know about food, all right? So it's just to be aware of the pros and cons of outsourcing too. That's the third option. Now, the fourth option, this is a place long-term that when you get to this place, it's a phenomenal place to be. And this is the place really that we're trying to get our clients to inside Built to Last long-term. And that is operating with habits and guidelines. Operating with habits and guidelines. Because when you're at a place where you are that mentally and visually astute in looking at food and eyeballing the calories, and you're out at a restaurant and just through sheer experience, what a certain food may have in terms of quantity of calories, what certain foods have that may be not really beneficial to you and your goals, then that's a really powerful place to be. For example, this is pretty much what I do, and anyone I've sort of been friends with over the years that's been in phenomenal shape, for more than 3, 4, 5 years consistently, you'll generally find that they operate off this approach too, just because they sort of know by how they feel or by how they look that the habits that they're operating with their food, is obviously contributing to how they want to look and feel, and obviously their performance in the gym. So, for example, with me, this year, for example, I've just focused on habits, and one in particular, and that is pretty much removing added sugar. Okay, so if there is one habit or two habits I would strongly recommend, if you want to go down this approach to focus on, it is minimize or remove added sugar altogether. Minimize or remove as much as possible processed food. Because even if you didn't track your calories, even if you didn't necessarily have an obsessive OCD protein target, or you weren't even on a set meal plan, I can virtually guarantee that if from a habit perspective, you minimized added sugar and you minimized protein, you would naturally consume less calories, you would naturally feel better, you'd naturally optimize your energy. So if you are going to go down the habits and guidelines approach from the off, those are the two habits, or one of the two, I would 100% focus on. But being really, really straight to the point, I wouldn't advise that until you've got a greater understanding and you've created that discipline and that momentum from one of the other three options, especially the first two that I've been through. So those are your four options, but I just wanted to gently touch on another thing you need to be aware of in relation to the food that's going in your mouth, and that is, of course, restaurants and things like Deliveroo services. Now, these are, I suppose, in a way, another form of outsourcing your food, but the calories that you're going to be consuming at a restaurant via Deliveroo are going to be a lot more subjective. So if you are using these things and going to restaurants more frequently, then I definitely think you need to over-exaggerate calories. Whatever you think these meals are, add at least a few hundred calories on more. I mean, we advise our clients to use 150% rule, when they're out at restaurants. just to, play the worst case scenario, because so often we do the opposite and underestimate calories, and then people wonder why they're not dropping fat. Okay. But I will do a separate podcast episode sort of going really detailed on that. But those are your 4 options. You've got your protein and calorie target and tracking your calories. You have your set meal plan. You have outsourcing to a meal prep company or someone within your household who's going to cook for you. And then you have habits and guidelines, which for me is the pinnacle of long-term where you're trying to get to be. All right. So there's your options, but you will need to, be malleable with them and know how to adapt and move from them across the year. You may find even with your typical week setup that you need a mixture of those 4 options, and it's not just, say for example, a meal plan. It's not just tracking calories. You need to, be malleable, but it's got to work for you. So just moving on to sort of trying to piece this all together a little bit. You need to forward think and plan. I can guarantee one of the reasons you're successful in your career, especially as a business owner, is your forward plan, right? You anticipate challenges. You know where you need to invest more time, more expense, more resource, more work, and you know where to do the opposite. And you have to do this with your food if you're really trying to get control, as I keep coming back to, across the year. Because it's pointless having a good week, a good month, if you can't sustain it. If you've listened to this podcast so far, you are probably one of those people that has yo-yoed consistently with your food, with your body weight, with your body shape. All right. And if you want to put an end to that once and for all, we need to forward think each month, right? Each month, what are the social challenges? What are the professional challenges where, I may need a different strategy with my food. So ideally on a monthly basis, what within that month, is it going to be a set meal plan approach, which is going to work best for you? Is it going to be tracking calories and hitting a protein target and calorie target? Is it outsourcing? Is it habits and guidelines? Okay. But if you're not going to do that per month, do it per week. Maybe just, it's a bit more, tangible for you to do that, but look at each week. What is the best food strategy? And you may have one option, which is better during the week, and another option, which is better during the weekend. But you have to be that detailed with this, because otherwise you're going to be reactive state and just hoping for the best. And you have this on it, off it mentality, which is what we're trying to put an end to. Because I think it's the biggest problem in global the global fat loss problem is the on it, off it mentality, or people are good Monday to Thursday, then go to shit Friday to Sunday. All right. But as an absolute minimum, if you're not going to forward think your month, your week, you have to forward think your day. Right. So as I've said on previous podcast episodes, and I'll continue to say this, right? Never go to bed without knowing the next day what method of controlling your food and consuming your calories you are going to use. You will always know what you're doing the next day if you're organized and you consider yourself a disciplined, high-performing business owner especially, all right? But evaluate what is the best strategy per month, per week, and as a minimum per day. All right, and really take control to evaluate that, because the better you evaluate your weeks, your months, your days, the more control you will have with your food, and then you have a more predictable outcome in relation to your energy, your fat loss, and of course your performance and how you want to look. All right, and sort of just coming towards the conclusion of this podcast now, I just wanted to specifically sort of break down a bit of a summary of what we do exactly inside Built to Last with our clients. Right. It goes without saying, they have a meal plan example where we tell them in relation to their preferred meal frequency, their exact body composition goals, what we'd recommend if they were to have a set meal plan, what would be the ideal in terms of getting more food per calorie, hitting their protein target, and of course trying to make their food as sort of tasty as possible in relation to their goals so they actually stick to it. And then, of course, we'll have shopping lists, we'll have recipes, just so, they have options in relation to, that meal plan approach. But alongside this, just because we want to remove any excuse, and I encourage you to do the same with your fat loss goals or body comp goals, we also advise them to track, especially to start with, your your calories, track your protein. So you just know across your 7 days, the exact protein you're hitting, the exact calories. So for example, if you're not, sticking to that meal plan exactly for 7 days, at least you're tracking your protein and calories on those days that you're not. And if you do that to start with, I guarantee your mental awareness of your food will just go to a completely different level, and you'll realize, with that deeper level of accountability, what you're doing well, what you're not doing so well, and what you can do to be better as the weeks progress. All right. And then what we do, and this comes through obviously building that structure at the start, is we provide a call option with one of our food specialists to really analyze what is a client finding easy with their food and what they're struggling with in relation to their personal, professional, and social lifestyle, and what is the best strategy out of those 4 options I covered earlier for that particular client. And that is what I advise for you to do the same. Once you've operated with tracking your calories, hitting your protein target, or at least attempting to, and or alongside that a meal plan, then sort of as the time progresses, that's when you can evaluate, what's going to work best for me in terms of the different strategies, once you've built that initial momentum. And this is where I want to squash some of the bullshit that I see on social media, where a lot of people are promoting like overly flexible approach. In my opinion, you have to earn the right to be flexible, right? If anyone is telling you that, especially if you've got an awful lot of body fat to lose, that you can eat what you want, everything can taste really tasty, and you can eat loads and loads of food, it's absolute horseshit. You have to pay your dues to start with. And of course, when you're not used to being in a calorie deficit, it can be difficult, emotionally, especially when you've got stressful situations at work or maybe in your family life, because that obviously influences how much you want to eat. It's not always easy, right? But the more structure you can create from the start, the more discipline you can create from the start, right? That's what will build momentum. Then the fat will start dropping off. And then the leaner you get, the more flexible you can be. And that's where, obviously, as I'll just come back to, you can operate with more habits and guidelines because you paid your dues a little bit. So, earn the right to be flexible, and to do that, create structure, and whichever approach you're having, whether it's your protein, calorie targets, your meal plan, or outsourcing, basically trying to create that structure. Get momentum first, get some body fat off first, and then you can be a bit more malleable. Because, when you're trying to be too flexible, and if it fits your macros, all that bullshit that I see, it's not going to bring you a world-class body. It's not going to bring you a great body anytime quick. All right? But focusing on good habits and structure at the start certainly will. And lastly, as always with, these podcast episodes, I always like to end with some thought-provoking questions, because I believe if you ask yourself better questions, you get better answers, and it takes your level of awareness to another level on what you need to do to make better decisions and choices. So take some time to answer these questions, because I know I've chucked a lot on you in this episode. Question 1. When you eat healthier, why is this? What do you do differently? So think of, your weeks, your years, or maybe think of the last sort of 3, 4, 5 years. Whenever you've felt you've eaten healthier, why is this, and what do you do differently? Okay. Number 2, more specifically than that, which months of the year do you eat better, and why? Because there is always a reason, whether it's an emotional reason, whether it's an organizational reason, like to do with your planning, but there is always a reason, right? It's a bit like, and I'll relate this to business again, when you have maybe your strongest months or your highest levels of profit, there will be a reason for that. And I'm sure you evaluate why this is and what you do differently in terms of your rituals, your system, your team. But on the flip side, question 3, which months of the year do you go to shit, and why? Which food option I've mentioned will help prevent this? You'll probably notice certain behavior patterns, especially in relation to food, at certain months of the year. from my experience, a lot of people struggle during the summer months, during Christmas time. But what can you do to prevent this from happening year to year? To prevent that fat and that body weight keep compounding year to year? There's always a solution. And hopefully from the options I've presented today, it's opened up a new level of thinking, a new strategy perhaps that you can use during these months that you're off it. All right, because this is ultimately what I'm trying to create and my team are trying to create within Built to Last, is this on it, off it mentality. Because I don't believe anyone really, really wants to have this on it, off it mentality. All right. And then the last question: in the areas of life you feel you have total control, why is this? And what is your thought process in this area? And what rituals from this area could you maybe adopt and use with your food? Because I can almost guarantee, and for a lot of people it's their career and business, there'd be a certain level of thinking, there'd be a certain way of planning and forward thinking that would be making you successful in this area, that would be creating consistency. But what is the mindset in this area, and how can you sort of transfer that mindset and mental approach with your food? Because if you've done it in one area, you can do it in another, as I say to my clients all the time. And lastly, I want to end with a quote that is so true. It's very blunt, to the point with food. The food you eat is determining your health more than anything. The food you eat is determining your health more than anything. Make no mistake about it. If you want to be around on this earth as long as you possibly can, or at least put yourself in a position to be on this earth as long as possible, to take control of everything that is within your control, then eat better. Right? If you want to live with more energy, you want to squeeze more potential out of life, then how you eat is playing a significant role in helping you do that. So I'm not saying you need to be perfect, but if you want to look better, feel better, and really, really protect the longevity of your health long term, then just respect the food that you put into your mouth. And I guarantee, you'll be in a much stronger position to do that. And that's that. I know I've chucked a hell of a lot on you today in today's podcast, but maybe it's something that you can re-listen to, as I've been doing this a hell of a long time now, and you can't fluke your way to a better body. You can't fluke your way to better health. You can't fluke your way to consistent fat loss and weight management. And the stuff I've shared with you, really is simple but gold strategies to help you really get a grip on your fat loss and your body composition once and for all. So, as always, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.